all of that together, then that really, we feel, gets most bang for your buck and keeps the kid motivated, the different activities and having a partner. So when we put the camp together, we take a lot of care in putting the dyads together and trying to think, okay, is this kid going to get along with this kid? Is this kid really active? We need a kid who's really calm to go with him. Just trying to put it together so that they will have that social aspect that's part of therapy.
If we think about it, my daughter's an SLP in the public schools, and she very rarely has the opportunity to see a child one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I think that this is very motivating to read about in how to do this with more than one child and that it's effective.
Yeah, it's so true. The reality of the public schools is just really constrained right now. So, yeah, I love that you're putting out stuff that Aravind, that not a lot of people are doing. So it's definitely interesting to read. And even when you put out that speech motor delay paper, I think, and you were saying maybe we can get this done in 2 times a week. My initial reaction was like, what? Why would you put out a paper? It's hard to get 3 to 5 times a week for these kids. But then talking to you and reading why you did it was because the reality is much different in Canada. And so you're trying to find creative solutions within the reality that we live in. And I think that's why I really appreciate your research. Now, so yeah, so what were the findings then?
So again, I tried to push the boundaries on how you report data, right? So the reason I really want to emphasize this point because very few data out there represent data outside of maturation. I'm going to let that sink in because that is super serious in the profession.
Say that one more time.
If like very few data points or studies out there report data on outside of maturation changes. And that is really important simply because that tells you if you stayed at home, would you have produced the same amount of change? It sounds trivial, but it's super important. Let's say I'm comparing two interventions and they both produce 10% change. Yes, we can call it, hey, these two studies produce 10% change. But what if I showed you data that at staying at home, intelligibility improves 10% without doing anything? I think that is where the money is. So this paper reports on all this data, but it also tells you, is those changes outside of reliability? Because if you do test retest, you're going to have reliability error. Is this outside of reliability error, which is, again, nobody's reporting those numbers. Second, is this number outside of maturational boundaries, which means it's a true change, even if you just waited at home and not doing anything. And I think that is powerful. And we report on clinically noticeable change. Again, we can report statistically significant. You can say, hey, this is 5% and it's statistically significant, amazing therapy work. That is not real data. The real data is, was that change noticeable clinically? So we again report, is this minimally clinically noticeable difference? So that number is, again, super important for the profession. And I think that's where the buck ends. So from my perspective, I think we've tried to push some of these boundaries on how to report data in this field, not just in apraxia, but in any speech sound disorder area. And we've used the right elements to target. For example, we just talked about shaping, we talked about scaffolding, word shells and all that. Are we measuring the right things? So for Kaufman approach, we should be measuring word shapes as an outcome because that's what you're targeting. Yes, I can measure person consonant, but they're not doing articulation therapy in Kaufman. Right? Yes, articulation improves, but that is not the primary focus of that is not the theory. The philosophy is different. So you have to align the measure to the philosophy. So again, we have tried to push the boundary on that as well in this one, saying that theoretically, this is what you're working on. So we have to build the outcome, which is we use the word shape match measure, which was proposed by Barbara Bernhard and their team back in the day, as one of the primary outcomes to show that syllable shape actually improves. That in another paper we had, which is a predicting outcome paper, which was published in JSECCHA in 2023, says that was one of the most predictable or the most powerful predictor of functional outcome changes.
Yes. Okay.
So it all ties together, right?
Yes. Let me try and break this down for people that might not be following. Okay, so when you say PCC, you're talking about percentage consonant correct, correct?
Yeah.
And that is how researchers typically measure if there was progress on that. So for parents listening, basically what we're looking at is, did the percentage of their consonants correct go up from one number to another number? And if it did, in a statistically measured way that the researchers know all about that I don't, then they decide that, yeah, that treatment was effective and it worked because now we have more accurate consonants. But really what you're saying is that does not really get at clinical. I see this in clinical practice all the time. It's just crazy. That doesn't translate to clinical intelligibility. That doesn't
So just to maybe tweak it a little bit, right?
yeah, go ahead.
If you just had, for example, all the consonants correct, like pa, ta, ka, ja, da, but you only have the syllable shape CV, means your person consonants correct is going to be 100%, but how many words can you say in English that is CV?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you added a final consonant, your vocabulary now explodes out.
Yes.
That is what Kaufman is doing.
Yeah, that's actually what's really great about Kaufman. Nancy, I remember when I was first getting into this field, I was in the parent boards, and I remember parents would be like, I don't know how she did it. I took my kid to go see her, and my kid could say one word, and all of a sudden she got 5 words out of it. Now I'm a clinician that's been doing this for 12 years, and now I totally understand what was going on there. The child can say papa, cool. Now we can get purple, puppy, Piper, like we can get all of those. And I know they're going to be able to do it. It's not being psychic. They're like, I don't know how Shrek can just pull these words out of his brain that I didn't know he could say. It's about understanding the consonant repertoire, yes, but also the syllable repertoire, and then being able to expand it from there.
Can I twist this story a little bit deeper?
Sure.
If you look at Jonathan Preston's chaining, forward chaining and backward chaining, that is not that much different from the K-SLP approach.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're having a small structure, Ray. They go del Ray. The del Ray is doing, so they're scaffolding and chaining forward and backward, which is what the Kaufman approach is doing bottom up in a different way as well.
And forward and backward chaining is also an aspect of applied verbal behavior.
Yeah.
Is it really?
It's very effective, especially for children with autism who struggle to speak.
Yeah.
And Lori, you were talking about the criticisms and the myths.
Yeah.
What I got was, it's not the methods, it's because I'm an expert clinician.
I've heard that too. But you are. You are.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Well, that's another reason that I was motivated to pursue the research, because I knew that wasn't true. I knew that I was a decent clinician, but that I knew that it was the methods and not just because I was the one implementing them.
Yeah. So this is exciting. So ultimately, the findings did find, Aravind, to wrap this all up, the conclusion of this paper was. Go ahead. I'm not saying it.
I thought you were going to read it. Okay.
Drum roll.
Sorry, Jordan.
As I said, drum roll.
Drum roll. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the previous studies had 50% outcomes, 30% outcomes, and so on. So what we found is if you had it delivered in dyads, and these children also have comorbidities, which we not touched upon.
Oh, I loved that too. I did highlight that. Yes.
Yeah, and every one of these kids had comorbidities. So that makes this population a very hard to treat, difficult to treat population with apraxia. Now, in that, given those conditions, having 4 out of 5 children able to acquire the targets and generalize successfully and show changes at all the levels of the WHO, which is the impairment, intelligibility, and functional outcomes, is, I think, phenomenal. But I would say it is because of the intervention, the format of delivery, the dyadic group format, whatever was working. It's a combination of all of the factors. And I think that's what makes this a very successful program overall.
Awesome. So you just must have been thrilled, Nancy. I can only imagine.
Beyond. I'm really so happy that we went forward and got the research going. And can I take a very quick opportunity to thank Aravind, of course, and his cohorts, but also Mimi and the Caruth Center's SLPs. They're amazing. And they had to do this research through the pandemic. And even in the middle of it, I think a couple of the speech and language pathologists did come down with COVID.
They did.
Oh,
man.
Mimi stepped in. And Jordan and Laura, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was really special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. This is amazing, amazing. And love you both. Keep up the good work. I love seeing different interventions. I love seeing all these posts coming out, and honored to be here and forever your big supporter here.
And
Well,
thank you so
like
much for having us.
No one.
Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to say on my end too, it was an honor speaking to all of you. As a personal note, I always just tell everyone, I'm in it. I was a speech language pathologist before Ashton, but I'm so passionate about it now because of her. And I just always, it could bring me to tears that there are people out there that care about like children like my daughter this much to be as passionate about it. So I just really appreciate all of you too.
Absolutely. We love what we do.
Yeah. Jordan, no thoughts?
And as I had just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming, and I just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming on and for also being also for being willing to push for trying to push some of the restrictions people have put into place for really no good reason, if I'm honest. And I do find that the people who do the best work are the people that do go against what has been done, because we have to think outside of the box. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming on. It was an honor to talk to you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
So that concludes this episode of the Apraxia Foundation podcast. Find us at wherever podcasts you listen to them, Spotify, Apple. We'll also be on YouTube for those that like to watch at the Apraxia Foundation. Find us on social media, Facebook and Instagram under the same name, the Apraxia Foundation, and look for our grants that we offer for speech therapy and AAC for children in need, and apply if that applies to you. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.